Everybody here comes from somewhere that they would just as soon forget.
Welcome back. Sunday morning, January 10th, 2010. It is 10:50. That's 10 minutes before the hour of 11 here in Central Time Zone. Minneapolis and St. Paul, broadcasting on AM 950 and on the internet around the world at PagittRadio.com. We like to finish each hour with a little segment that I call Cripes. Come on, you got to be kidding me. A little reminder that sometimes things in our world aren't the way they're supposed to be. We end the first hour saying, sometimes there's things that just get a guy. They just get a guy, and I'm one of those guys that gets got by this stuff. So I like to bring it up, have a little fun with it, and also let off a little steam. And then at the end of the second hour, we have our Right On segment, things that are right in the world, things that are the way they're supposed to be, and we live in a world that's full of both. Things that make you say, Cripes, come on, you got to be kidding me. And the things that make you say, right on, as we call this religious radio that's not quite right. But sometimes there are some things in this world that are right on. All right, number one here on the Cripes that come on, the You Gotta Be Kidding Me segment. This gets my Cripes this week. I tried, Grover. I held back. I did everything I could to just restrain myself over the holidays, and it has nothing to do with the holidays. It has nothing to do with the weather. Here's what it is. Auto replies on emails. Out of the office replies. Sorry, I'm on vacation. Can't get back to you till later. Those things drive me out. They drive me nutty. Now, I know that there's some people that for whatever reason, they got to tell you right away, as soon as you email them, that he gets this little bounce back that says, I'm not available to you. It's just so... Like when you get spammed by the person that you're sending an email to, it just makes me say, and the other thing is, everybody seems to go on vacation at this time. And this week already, the first week of January, first full week of January, still getting these things from people. Because sometimes, you know what happens? People don't remember to turn them off. Like they work so hard to remember to turn them on to tell you, I'm going to be out of the office over the holidays and I'm going to be at this point. And then they forget to turn them off. So 3-4 days after the thing says, I'm going to be back on January 2nd. I'll be back to the office on January 4th. You're still getting these things from people. They make me, like every time I send an email and then I get these little ping, 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 pings back from people. Oh, it makes me nutty. You? Do you send a lot of email? Are you an emailer?
No, I don't like the email. I'm like a face-to-face. I like to physically talk to the person, let them know what's going on. Yeah. I get in trouble with email, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, yeah. Well, then you've dodged the auto reply, out of office reply. I mean, I just wish
I've gotten that before. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? Well, when you spend a lot of time communicating with a lot of people through the written modality of email, it's just enough to make a guy say Cripes. Well, here's the come on for today. The come on goes to a person. I don't often do this. I don't often call people out by name. I don't often jump down people's throats in the come on segment. But every once in a while, can't help myself. Here's why I feel comfortable doing this. Because the guy that I'm giving the come on to is the restaurant critic for the Star Tribune newspaper. Rick Nelson. Critic Rick Nelson put together 10 years of restaurant missteps. But a big article, like in the restaurant section, it's an entire page. I'm holding it up right now. It like covers the entire, top of the fold plus a little bit. It's huge. And he says, I've got these 10 things about restaurants that bug me. Now, look, I'm not a foodie. I like a good fine meal sometimes. I'm all into that. I don't like cooking for myself. But this guy, killing me. The come on really has to do with his number 4 on his list. Now, his other things on the list are stop with these half-priced wine nights and stop giving nasty online reviews as an anonymous poster on on review sites and all this kind of stuff. And then he has this one. This is one that gets me. Number 4, his misstep: tip jars. He says tip jars, and he writes this little paragraph, being the snarky fellow that he is. Let me see if I have this right. He says, I'm supposed to fork over some coin just because you bagged a few lemon bars or you made a non-fat caramel brulee latte? Didn't you already draw a salary? Look, we've been through this before on this show. Restaurant critic. It's the business model of those places. It's how it's set up. It's the deal. Come on, you're in the restaurant industry. I mean, that's the number of restaurants that function by paying their staff through the tip mechanism, through the tip agreement. It's massive. Without the tipping agreement at your small coffee shop or your large service restaurant, it wouldn't exist. And he's a restaurant critic. A restaurant critic telling people, no, we shouldn't have tips. If all you're doing is making me a little something. What? Then why would you ever give a tip? See, okay, I get it, Grover. I get people who say, well, I don't tip at the McDonald's. Well, that's because that's the deal at McDonald's. They've chosen to compensate their people differently. We've been through that before. But here's what gets me about this. With that logic, all you did was put a lemon bar or made me a latte or, put a sandwich in a bag for me. If that's not tip worthy, what makes anything else tip worthy?
To counter his act, you tip the bartender. All he does is twist the top. There's nothing easier than bartending almost. Except for putting up with drunk people, maybe.
Look at this. Grover, yeah, knocking it down. That's right. You tip the bartender. Crying out loud, when I go to the airport tomorrow, you know I'm going to tip? The baggage guy. Tip the guy it's a whole tipping culture. For the restaurant critic at the Star Tribune to be saying you shouldn't have to tip, it's pandering to cheap people. Pandering, Rick Nelson. Pandering. I'm going to invite you onto my show, and I want you to explain yourself, Critic Rick. How do you... Come on. Now look, if you're just being a cheapo, and I happen to know that the state Supreme Court justice visits a couple of food establishments regularly and doesn't tip. I'm not going to get into the tipping thing. What gets me is that it's a restaurant critic telling people not to tip. Listen to me on this, people, not to Rick Nelson. Tip those places. Be gracious. Number 3. It's articles about this airline security. I don't know if you saw this, Grover, but this earns it. The Slovak authorities tried to pass a bomb through through security.
Not 1, 4.
4 gets through. And tomorrow at the airport, I'm gonna have to take my shoes off. It just
make sure your feet smell.
I mean, yeah, I shouldn't have washed my woolly socks this week already when I got there. Look, it's the classic fighting the last war, right? It's the classic put new locks on the empty barn after the cows get out. Like let's inconvenience everybody for the previous thing, and we can't come up with solving the new thing. All this stuff, the CIA people being blown up, the guy getting on with the underwear that can blow up, sneaking these bombs through. People, not asking for a lot, just to at least accomplish the security measures that make some sense. You've got to be kidding me. You sneak 4 bombs through? You get 4 bombs through? Then you read in the paper that that the Nigerian was on the list and they were going to interview him when they landed. Did you hear that? Interview him when they landed. Oh, my goodness. So, auto replies, Cripes. Rick, the restaurant critic, telling people not to tip? Come on. You have got to be kidding me that we can sneak bombs through. We need to get that dog from the Minneapolis airport over there. They wouldn't have let anything through. Sometimes things in this world just aren't right. Hold on for another hour and you're going to hear about the right on, the things that are right in this world. Like Pagitt Radio, religious radio that's not quite right on AM 950, like PagittRadio.com.